How's it going, Twitter? So I got to thinking about my video yesterday, and I just get sidetracked. I talk about some specific things. It's good that I went outside, but I don't think I really boiled down the actual point of the whole thing, or I didn't take very much time. So I did a little bit more math this morning, and this in front of you is the corn plant from the summer of 2017. I'm that weird that I just keep it behind the garage. And I was looking at it, and it's pretty neat. I knew it grew 3 suckers, but as it's died, I can see that it actually was trying to grow more plants higher in the stalk. And I actually counted 6 total suckers. But we had 31 ears from this one corn plant, and it kind of blew people's mind. But I knew that we would get somewhere crazy if we gave it space because it's all fractal or 80-20 or Fibonacci. It's all a function of force multiplication. And that's what I talk about with relay cropping. It's this different tangent. And it's this different because what we're trying to do is milk the difference, if that makes any sense. So a lot of people ask me for advice for this, but they can't get over the fact that it's its own entity, that the acre of ground needs to use all the sunlight more days. So you can't try to grow the same crop and double it. There's just not enough finite resources. There's not enough water. There's not enough sunlight. It all goes down to sunlight. So we've got math right here to explain how in the hell do you get 30 years from one plant. And if you follow the 80-20 rule, you can figure a lot of things out in this world. You can use it for sales. The guy that I've been watching uses it for sales, and that was kind of my first experience with that in getting in front of the right people. And I'll go on that maybe on another day. I don't have enough time this morning. But you see here, there's a 31-eared corn plant. So let's do a little math here. Let's just assume from the beginning, and you can argue this or whatever you want, but the idea is you get 80% of the output from 20% of the input. So if we could get 200 bushels per acre from 40,000 corn plants, then we can get 160 from 8,000 corn plants. Now that may boggle your mind, but if you ask Jared McDaniel with the Low Pop Mafia, he'll probably back this up. Now this might be, the 80-20 rule might be a little bit off here. You'll see here that at the ending it might be 75-25, but you see the relationship. Quit getting into the exact numbers. That's what's, my opinion, is wrong with precision farmers. We try to make all these decisions in a vacuum. We try to get all the numbers down. They're always going to be off a little bit. But as I go on, I digress. So 8,000, 160, 1.6 thousand plants. Just imagine how thin that is. 128 bushels the acre. 320 plants, 103 bushels per acre. So if you were down to just 320 plants in an acre, 103 bushel, then if each ear was a half a pound, you would need 112 ears for a bushel. So that would take, 11,000 ears, and the math boils down to this one corn plant, even though we're 11.6 feet in a square, and it just takes up a minute amount, it can almost get, I got to 36 on here. But the point is not how much this can flex. That's what we can leverage. The point is that if this corn plant encompasses 2 feet, 2 feet times 3.14 is 6 square feet. So if you got 11.6 feet, you got 136 square feet, you're only utilizing a small percentage to get a massive amount of production in that small. So what do you do with the other 130 feet? What do you do with the other 90-some percent? And that's why you got to think time and space. That's why I showed you the tulip or crocus and the oak tree. It's not relevant to the tulip because its sunlight is not going to be blocked. Its solar time space is not relevant to that. So if I was going to sell Christmas trees, I could sell Valentine cards, I could sell fireworks, and none of those variables would interfere with each other. So that's what we need to think about when we leverage this, is getting small inputs, getting maximum outputs, and putting them in different blocks. So if you look at let's look at this picture right here of this corn plant, and a ton of them have been eaten by squirrels. You see this old ear's all been eaten by a squirrel. We had 31 ears. We had about 12 that actually had a lot of corn on them because we ran out of the daddy donor, the pollen. So that's a portion that you can only stretch out so much. But I want to show the architecture of this corn plant. What was really interesting is, so when you give it this space, all these leaves became viable. So instead of these top leaves trying to drive the whole plant, and that's what happens when you're at 40K. When you're down to just a few plants out here, everyone is a little Briggs & Strat engine. So just imagine you starting up all of these engines and they're all giving that energy. That's liquid carbon going into the soil. So imagine if we make all these shapes to where we're taking all this energy, we're going to make more soil, we're going to feed our microbes even better. But what really happened through evolution is when it made an ear, a few days later, a leaf started growing on each ear. And that leaf grew enough energy to make another ear in the same node. So you are finding all these ears fire up on each node, each one on a sucker, these new suckers up here, and each ear was making a leaf. So I thought it was done at 10 or 12 or 13, and it made it all the way to 31, and that reproductive window lasted for 6 weeks. So if we think about that, if we just do two variables like wheat and soybeans, we got to get down at the numbers, and it all comes down to this 2 feet in 136 square feet. If I'm going to go plant a wheat plant and I'm in 60-inch spacing, I lost my thing. You got to think about the ground floor and you got to think about the surface area of the wheat heads. Look at this difference in this flexi wheat that starts with this force multiplier. If we go from 10 to 40 foot wide in a half circle, then that's a force multiplier 4. You take the half circle, that's 60, that's 6. But the only thing that's relevant is the time. Like if I was selling fireworks and Christmas trees, the fireworks doesn't get away with a Christmas tree. So I'm just cohabitating here for 70 days. If I can get it wide enough and flex this fractal phenomenon and not affect the soybean yield, then I can effectively start that earlier, get a lot of these ancillary benefits, milk the leverage here, really lower my inputs, get a percentage with an extremely low, and that's contribution margin, and then it actually helps out the soybeans. To the soybean plant, we're in monocrops. This is just really terrible art here, but if it's a monocrop, again, I'm trying to grab all this energy just in the top few leaves of the plant and drive that down to the bottom. If I can make this shape for the soybeans and reproductive where we're similar to the wheat, where we're capturing light, and we can do that because we prune this dead one, then we are force multiplying the energy in each plant. So we're multiplying the production of each plant. So you start multiplying the production of this and stretching out the entire window. That's how you get these phenomenon numbers where, hey, maybe our wheat costs us $50 instead of $200. Maybe our beans we saved on herbicide with less plants. We produce more with less. You do more with less, you add contribution margin. And instead of having a spreadsheet with all this stuff people sell, narrow it down to a variable or two and really go after it. So anyway, long enough. Hopefully you followed that. We'll put this back out in the garage before my wife sees it. All right. And tomorrow, if I get time, I want to talk about my first sales job and about going broke and how I just narrowed it down to getting in front of the right people. So look forward to that if I have time tomorrow. All right. Thank you.